Hello and very good evening to everyone. Today we want to present about security threat. The presenter is myself, Siti Nusyairah binti Muhammad Ashri, and my friends here, Muhammad Harith bin Zainuddin, Nurain binti Sabtu, and Nur Hafizah binti Hassan. The security of a system is a system part that shows the ability of the system to protect itself from unintentional or intentional external attack from outside. So the security threat is defined as a risk that is potential to harm computer system, programs or applications and organizations. The security threat that we want to share today is denial of services, which is DOS attack, malware, errors and omissions, fraud and theft, botnets and phishing.
So we'll move on to the concept. The first one, as you can see on the table, we're going to look into the types of security threats that must be dealt with. And I am actually going to explain 4 kinds of threat consequences and list the kinds of attacks that result in each of the consequences. As you can see, there are 4 main types of threat consequences. The first one is unauthorized disclosure, where it is an event whereby an entity gains access to the data for which the entity is not authorized. And there are a lot of threat action. There's actually 4, which are the exposure, interception, interference, and also intrusion. The second threat consequence is actually deception. Deception is actually a circumstance or event that may result in an authorized entity receiving false data and believing it to be true. Because of this consequence, it's going to have the threat action of the masquerade, where an unauthorized entity gains access to the system or perform a malicious act by posing as an authorized entity. Falsification, where false data deceive an authorized entity. And lastly, repudiation. The next threat consequence is actually disruption. It is actually an event that interrupts or prevents the correct operation of a system, services, and also the function. This also has a few threat action, which is the incapacitation, corruption, and also obstruction. And lastly is usurpation, where it's actually an event that results in control of system, services, or functions by an unauthorized user. And this one, it has 2 threat action, which are the misappropriation and also the misuse. Basically, as you know already, the computer security not only involve all those threats that I've mentioned, it also actually involve the assets, as an example, the hardware, the software, the data, and also the communication lines and network. Because of all of these assets, it actually triggers the availability, confidentiality, and also the integrity that we have actually learned. These are some of the examples. If you want to read, then you can basically read it. But these are some of the examples. But I'm actually going to move on to the solution. As you can see, there are actually a few security strategies that involve these 3 aspects. The first one is specification and policy. Second one is implementation and mechanism. And the last one is the correctness and assurance. So the first step in devising security services and mechanism is to develop a security policy. So basically, a security policy is actually a formal statement of the rules and practices that specify and regulate on how the system actually provides security services. In developing the security policy, there are a few factors that need to be considered. The first one is the value of the asset that is being protected, the vulnerabilities of the system, and lastly, the potential threats and the likelihood of the attacks. The second strategy is actually the implementation and the mechanism, where it questions how does it do it work. It actually involves 4 complementary courses of action. The first one is prevention, the second one is detection, response, and lastly, the recovery. And the last solution is the correctness assurance, or we can also say assurance and evaluation, where obviously the security consumer wants to feel the security infrastructure, meet the security requirements, and enforce the security policies. So assurance is actually an attribute of an information system that provides grounds for having confidence that the system operates such the system policy is supposed to be. And evaluation is the process of examining the computer product. So it involves testing and also may also involve formal analytic and also mathematical technique. So that's all for the concept and solution.
We move on to the possible security threat. We have malware. Malware is a short form of malicious software, and that refers to computer programs that designed to attack and damage computer without the user consent. Malware typically consists of code that is developed by attackers to gain unauthorized access to the network. There are a few types of malware like virus, spyware, worms, trojan, and ransomware. As for virus, it spreads fastly and widely by attach themselves to clean files and infect other files in in the computer. Usually, virus appear as an executable file. Next is spyware. It usually hide themselves in the background and collects the user's personal information like password or any online banking information. Next is worms. Worms usually infect one machine and another machine through the network. Trojans always disguise itself as a legitimate software or hide in them. Trojans create a door to let other malware come into user devices, and there is no self-replicate for Trojans. As for ransomware, it's a form of malware that demands some fee from the user by encrypting a user's files and threaten to delete the files to get the money from the user. Once they get the money, the attackers will unlock the file to the user. Next is a denial of service attack, which come from the malware where authorized user cannot access to the system due to attack from the unauthorized user. There are two forms of attacks, which is flooding attacks and crash attacks. As for flooding attacks, there are two types, which is ping flood and SIM flood. As for ping flood, attackers flooding the victim's network by sending spoof packets of information in their IP address to hit every computer. For SYN flood, attackers send TCP connection request faster than the targeted device and causing network saturation. For the next form of attack, which is crash attacks, attackers transmit bugs that will utilize flaws in the targeted system and the targeted system will crash.
Okay, as for the next threat is that errors and omission. This type of security threat is usually underestimated by us because errors and omission is an error that humans are making the errors and omission itself. Now, let me give you an example. Because this type of errors and omission is intentional human mistake that because of human enter information as their daily basis. The fact that making an application of software, it is not possible to build every type of error control. So the solution for this type of errors on omission is that we can improve the working condition, education, and the awareness of their employee. The most dangerous errors in this type of threat is bugs because during programming processes, the employee itself sometimes will make errors and that will become dangerous. This will be result in application malfunction. This kind of error, attackers can take advantage of it. The next threat is fraud and theft. Although we see this fraud and theft is like only a theft that people take money or theft like people killing people or something like that, but not. Fraud and theft also is a kind of threat in security because this can be performed by traditional or modern method. Let me give you an example of fraud and theft. The employers itself can use the company computer to steal their company money. This is the threat that the company possess because their employee itself will take the money little by little that have the control of the company computers. Second is that attackers have access control to different resources. So these attackers can also become their internal or external because when attacker have complete control over the company computer or company server, they will have unlimited control and access to this information. They can go deep and they can do whatever they want, familiar first with the system, and then they can do fraud and theft. Next one is botnet. Botnet is actually a good technology but are being used for bad intention. Botnet is actually a string of connecting computers that coordinate together to perform a task. This is what botnets do. Its function is that it performs repetitive tasks. Okay, so what we need to be careful of is that malicious and illegal botnets because this malicious and illegal botnet can gain access through malicious coding. So what happens is that it can be happen through drive-by download or installing Trojan horse into this type of computer. When one computer have been installed this botnet, then the attacker can do any other things because when attacker putting their botnet in the computer, then this attacker can use the machine power itself for those attacks, shut down the website, spam email, generate fake internet traffic, replacing banner ads and pop-up ads. So it can do many things because they only just deploy their botnet. They don't have to use their computer, but they use other computer. So they are controlling the computer by using the botnets at other places. That's why I said this is a good technology, but are being used for bad intention. Okay, Shah, proceed.
Okay, so the last one is phishing. phishing is normally happen nowadays. So it is a cybercrime that targets communication platforms such as email, telephone, or text message by someone. They use their image as a legit institution to lure individuals into sharing their privacy details such as IC number, credit card details, and passwords. So it is very dangerous that they will use it to access important accounts that result into identity theft and financial loss that also explained by Harid just now. And if you know the common features of phishing emails, such as the first one is too good to be true, like you suddenly want iPhone or money without doing nothing. Second one is sense of urgency. Suddenly need to respond as soon as possible or your computer will be locked. So they send this kind of threat. We sometimes we follow this. Yeah, it's dangerous actually. The third one is hyperlink, that if we can see the link from the email, they will navigate to other websites such as not a real website that, because sometimes the website has some misspelled words in the link, so it is actually a fake website. And the fourth one is attachment. This is when they send emails that contain ransomware or other viruses. So this one actually Pizza has talked about it from the malware. And lastly is unusual sender, which is unknown email sender. Actually we experience this. For me, I always have email from Apple that I need to pay for something, I need to change my ID. Yeah, this one is also can result to the identity theft and can make dangerous to my account too. What I can conclude for today's presentation is a trick is any activity that can lead to data loss or corruption to harm the normal business operations that we usually working on the computer. So we need to avoid from the beginning, because everyone knows prevention is better than cure. And if we need to do the solutions, it might take times to resolve all these issues. And developer must take account the system security when designing and developing a software or system, because as we have already discussed about how important it is to have the security of the system. And the last one is we need to avoid all traits such as that we have discussed today, those attack, malware, errors and omissions, fraud and theft, botnets, and phishing at all costs with the system security. So we need to enhance the security so that we can avoid all these threats. I think that's all from our group today. Thank you for watching and bye.
Bye.
Thank you.